Howdy, folks. I'm Ray Benson of Asleep at the Wheel, and I'll be on stage this Friday with my good friend Willie Nelson, Carolyn Wonderland, Megan Tubb, and many, many others at the Backyard in Austin, Texas this Friday, August 10th at 7 o'clock p.m. for a special benefit concert. More information available at austinfreedomfest.org.
And distributed by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C. This is your daily audio stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Welcome to the most popular audio podcast regarding marijuana in all of America and all the world, featuring interviews with scientists, politicians, doctors, prohibition policy activists, regular cannabis consumers, musicians, and NORML staff and NORML's board of directors, along with music and comedy no other podcast can offer. You can always find out more about the show at our website, NORMLAudiostash.com. We're ending marijuana prohibition with education, one listener at a time. Welcome back to the Audio Stash today. It's Thursday, August 9th. I'm your host, Chris Goldstein. Make sure to take a moment to join us at NORML to help end senseless marijuana prohibition in America. We can do it together. Make sure you join today or make a donation at NORML.org. And if you signed up in our email for the Urban Cowboy t-shirt giveaways, we sent out those winning notifications today. So make sure to check your email for your Urban Cowboy t-shirts out there. Thanks again to Urban Roots Productions for helping us give those away. Also, everyone, don't forget there's a Cottonmouth King show in a lot of cities this week. They're in New York tonight. And on Saturday, they're going to be in Philadelphia at the Electric Factory. You can find out more at Suburban Noise Records. We have links to those guys right up online at NORMLAudiostash.com. And tomorrow is Austin's Freedom Fest. Make sure to do anything you can to get yourself down to Austin, Texas for a great show. Willie Nelson, Carolyn Wonderland, Megan Tubb, Ray Benson, Asleep at the Wheel, Jackie the Joke Man Martlin, as well as MC Mark Stepnoski, as well as members of the Marijuana Law Reform Movement will all be in Austin, Texas tomorrow night. I'll be there as well. We're going to have some exclusive content from the Austin Freedom Fest for you next week, right here on NORML's Daily Audio Stash. Today in the program, we're going to speak with Carolyn Wonderland and play some of her music. We're also going to check in with Josh down at Texas NORML, find out what's going on with NORML in Texas. NORML, folks, has over 140 state chapters, local chapters. Find out where your local NORML is and get involved today. Just check out the NORML chapters link we have at NORMLAudiostash.com. So Carolyn Wonderland and Josh from Texas NORML in our show today. Let's get things started, though. We've got important news from NORML. Our news today. Canada approves cannabis spray for cancer pain. From Ottawa, Ontario. Canadian health officials granted regulatory approval this week to Sativex, an oral spray consisting of natural cannabis extracts as an adjunctive analgesic treatment in adult patients with advanced cancer. Sativex is already available in Canada by prescription for the treatment of pain associated with multiple sclerosis. Regulators in Great Britain and Spain have also granted limited regulatory approval for the drug. In clinical trials, patients with cancer who were unresponsive to opioids reported significantly improved pain relief after Sativex administration. Produced by the British biotechnology firm GW Pharmaceuticals, Sativex is a whole plant medicinal cannabis extract containing precise doses of the cannabinoids THC and cannabidiol, or CBD, as well as naturally existing terpenoids and flavonoids. Despite the drug's growing acceptance in Canada, the company recently withdrew its application for European regulatory approval after British regulators demanded additional clinical data on the drug. More information is available on this story at NORML.org. That's NORML.org. First up on the program today, we're welcoming the director of Texas NORML in Austin, Josh Schimberg, to the program. Josh has joined us here on the Audio Stash to discuss different state legislation and events happening there in the Lone Star State. Josh, welcome back to the program today.
Chris, thanks a lot for having me back. I really appreciate it. It's great to be back.
Great to speak with you again, Josh. Now, everyone's getting ready for the Austin Freedom Fest tomorrow. We heard a little from Ray Benson at Asleep at the Wheel about the venue, the backyard. But Ray's kind of talking from the on-the-stage perspective there. Josh, you've been to some shows at the backyard. Tell us what it's like on the ground.
All right. The backyard is a wonderful outdoor venue. They have like an amphitheater type setting, and in front of the stage, the ground kind of slopes upward so that people that are far away from the stage, maybe closer to the buildings or the bar or whatever, have a very good view of the stage. It's out towards the lake, Lake Travis, which is one of the most beautiful lakes that I've seen in Texas and really just about anywhere. So, it's going to be a great evening for marijuana law reform activists to get together and listen to some awesome music. I'm really looking forward to this event.
Right on. Also, Josh, this lineup tomorrow, it's really a well-known group of folks there in Austin locally. Absolutely.
Carolyn Wonderland, for anybody who doesn't know or hasn't listened to some of the previous podcasts, she originated out of Houston, and as a very young female blues type guitar player, and she's moved to Austin, and she's made an awesome name for herself, and she's even headlined a show for us down here in Austin for Texas NORML last year. She headlined our first ever 6th Street Smokeout, which was very cool, and we had her back actually for a small 420 party this year. So she's a huge marijuana law reform supporter, and not only that, she plays for other causes such as the peace movement, women's rights type thing, you name it. She is just it as far as activism and music put together.
And it's very interesting, Josh, because of that amazing music scene and it being a state capital, that mix of activism and music, that's a very natural one for Austin, it sounds like.
Yeah. There's a lot of that kind of thing going on here just because it is a capital city. There's activists here literally every weekend, almost throughout the year, that will be protesting either the war or protesting, patients' rights, or protesting some bill that the governor has vetoed or won't sign. It's really amazing. If you've never lived in a capital city like that, it's really amazing to see the dedication that some people have to activism for a multitude of causes. It gives you energy, the way I look at it.
And Josh, tell us what's going on with Texas NORML. What's Texas NORML doing right now?
Well, ever since I took the helm at Texas NORML, which was about a year and a half ago, I've basically been trying to get our organization to grow as far as the number of people in the area who are familiar with the NORML brand and the NORML name. There's obviously a lot of people that already know what NORML is, but I'm surprised on a weekly basis by the people who I run across who never heard of NORML, and this is in Austin. So I've put together shows like I was mentioning earlier with Carolyn Wonderland last year. We had a 6th Street Smokeout. Carolyn was the headliner, and we brought, 2 other bands from the Austin area to play for a benefit for Texas NORML, and we bring in vendors like hemp merchandise vendors like Earth Friendly Goods and local glass blowers who can share their wares with the people that come to the event. And it's worked out really well since I started, and we're having our second annual 6th Street Smokeout coming up on Labor Day weekend, and I'm looking to grow on last year's success. You know, I've found that with this music scene that we have in Austin here, which is probably the best in the country, maybe even the world, who knows. But with this music scene, it's easy to attract people when you have musicians like Carolyn or like Ray Benson with Asleep at the Wheel or Willie Nelson. It's easy to attract people to causes like ours when they see that these people who are some of the most successful people in their respect, when they support causes like ours, it helps to motivate people and get them behind our cause. And that's the only way that we're going to succeed, is to get more people behind the cause. And when we can work in conjunction with these greatly talented musicians like that, it's just a big plus for the organization and for the cause in general.
Righto. So Austin really is a great locale for music and reform to mix it up in all of the best ways.
That's my general feeling. Although, you know, there's other places in the country where I can see music and activism is getting together, and your show, the NORML Podcast, is one of the places where it's happening. You know, as many times as the podcast gets downloaded, and all of these musicians that you have, you know, day to day, every week, they all support the cause. And the more people that keep downloading the podcast and realizing that, hey, you know, the Cottonmouth Kings, obviously, if you listen to their music, you know that they support the cause. But when you have them on the podcast and they can talk directly to the people, and you can also share some of their music with the people, it gets people energized, motivates them, and, you know, like I said, we're doing it here, trying to do it here in Austin. People like the Cottonmouth Kings and Potluck, who you've had on recently, they're doing it out there on the West Coast, and we all know how the West Coast is going. Mm-hmm. So, you know, hopefully the trend will continue, and we can, you know, work with people like that, artists, musicians, even people, you know, comedy. We have comedy on the show also, and I know there's a High Times comedy show that's out in L.A. or in that general area. And then, of course, for the Freedom Fest, we've got Jackie the Joke Man Martling coming in. So it all meshes together. It's just a matter of making sure that we do get together and support each other. You know, it's not just about them supporting NORML, but, you know, NORML is trying to help them out and support them too, and it's a good relationship, I think. It works out very well.
And Josh, I've had more than a few emails this week from folks who are saying, you know, they're coming to the Austin Freedom Fest. They'd never been to Texas. They'd never been to Austin before. So we've been asking everybody on the program from down there this week about the town. Josh, you live and work there in Austin. Tell us what it's like being a local.
Man, you know, I moved to Austin almost 5 years ago, and ever since I've been here, I've sworn to everybody that I talk to that this is my home now. And I mean that when I say it, because this city, granted, it's in the center of Texas, and a lot of people know Texas for some very infamous things, you know, such as the prisons or the strict punishments that a lot of places in Texas give out for drug crimes. And, you know, I've touched on that before as far as the prison systems in Texas, and I know I heard Mark Stepnowski talk about that when he was on the podcast last week. But Austin itself is almost like a mecca in Texas for people with progressive ideas and people that support progressive movements. And that goes right along with the music scene, like I was saying earlier. It's a magnet for people of that type. And all these people get together with their great ideas, their great music, their great art, movies, you name it. And the atmosphere that you get is, sometimes it's surreal, actually. During South by Southwest, we've got Steve Bloom and the High Times crew coming down for the regular South by Southwest High Times party, and it's just, you get together with people like that during an event that's that big, with 1,500 bands in town from all over the world, and it's almost a surreal experience. It's almost like I live in the town, but a few times a year I go on vacation and I don't even have to leave my house. It's awesome. It's almost indescribable.
That is really cool, Josh. So because of all the different things going on there, the locals are pretty nice to the newbies, huh?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a tourist destination somewhat, and that's for sure. And just with, UT being here, there's, 30 or 40,000 students maybe at UT during the year, and a lot of the students come from not just in Texas, but all over the place, and there's a lot of big industry, as far as tech industry headquarters, that brings in even more diversity as far as where the people are from that live here. And you can't get that diversity really anywhere else in Texas. This is the only place where it's at. Granted, Dallas and Houston are much bigger, and San Antonio is a lot bigger also, but Austin, not only is it the Mecca, like I said, for progressive people in Texas, it's the Mecca for more diverse people in Texas. There's not enough that I could say about how great the city is, and they treat new people like friends and family. That's all I can say about that. It's probably the most friendly place in Texas too. Not to offend anybody else, but you can go down to Barton Springs, which is 2 blocks from downtown. You've got beautiful clear spring water coming out into the creek. You've got drum circles up by the waterfall, and you've got people hanging out with their dogs, swimming, relaxing in the creek, and then you can go two or 3 blocks down the road from that and see one of the best live music shows you've ever seen, up close and personal with the artist.
Right on. Josh, this has been a great conversation here today. I really appreciate you taking time to join us. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person down in Austin tomorrow night.
Very much looking forward to that. I was thinking about that today, and I'm listening to KGSR, which is one of the radio stations here in town, while I'm at work, and they're playing the ad for the Freedom Fest, every so often through the day, and they're saying Willie Nelson's coming to Austin Freedom Fest at the Backyard, and it's like building the excitement. And I know Friday is going to be absolutely awesome as far as, the event, the people that are there, the atmosphere, the attitude, everything. It's going to be great. I can't wait for it to get here.
Right on. Thanks again, Josh. Josh Schimberg is the director of Texas NORML. He's based in Austin. They'll be at the Austin Freedom Fest tomorrow night. Make sure you get there, too. We have links to get your tickets to the Austin Freedom Fest right online at normalaudiostash.com. You can also go direct at austinfreedomfest.org. Stay tuned. We're going to talk to one of the performers who's going to be on stage tomorrow night. Carolyn Wonderland's coming up next.
You're listening to NORML's Daily Audio Stash.
Joining us next today here on the Audio Stash is Austin-based musician Carolyn Wonderland. Carolyn is a great friend of marijuana law reform and has played a number of reform events, including a Texas NORML event in Austin last year, the High Times Doobie Awards at the South by Southwest Music Festival, and Seattle's Hemp Fest. Tomorrow she's going to be on stage with Willie Nelson, Asleep at the Wheel, and Megan Tubb at the Austin Freedom Fest. She's also graciously allowed us permission to play a number of her songs right here on the Audio Stash this year. I got a chance to check in with Carolyn earlier this week. Carolyn, welcome here to NORML's Audio Stash today.
Well, howdy. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here on the show, Carolyn. Thank you again for joining us today. We've played the very poignant song, Annie's Scarlet Letter, here on the program. Let me start by asking how you got involved with marijuana law reform.
Well, it's just watching your friend go to jail for nonviolent crime. There's only so much of that you can put up with before you got to open up your mouth.
And what was the inspiration for you for the song Annie's Scarlet Letter?
It's kind of funny. It's a combination of a couple of my friends because, you don't ever want to write about just one friend because then they'll know. But it's a couple of friends of mine, one of which, who was a single mom, ended up in jail for a couple of years and had long, hard custody battle to get her kids back. And really just for peddling dime bags is pretty ridiculous, And minimum wage ain't what it is. There's no living wage, so good Lord, I understand her predicament. But the whole song, Annie's Scarlet Letter, it wrote itself in about 5 minutes before I went on to play at we were playing at the Seattle Hemp Fest a couple of years ago. So it was just kind of a funny thing. It's like, well, here's an acoustic guitar and here's a song for 5 minutes. And I hadn't changed it since. It just came out right. Sometimes they do.
And the Freedom Fest tomorrow is happening on your home stomping ground there in Austin. But as someone who tours around the country, how does Austin compare in its attitudes towards cannabis?
But, much like everywhere, there's always a small pocket of folks who believe in the freedom of choice or the pursuit of happiness. By and far, Austin is a little liberal oasis in the midst of Texas. So you find a bit more relaxed attitudes towards it. Recently, in the last few years, they passed like a smoking ban, for example, in all the bars. And being a person who likes to live in the silver lining of any situation, I decided that it wasn't so terrible on the basis that, well, large groups of people smoking in circles are far less likely to get busted up now.
And where can folks see you out there next? I know you're playing a lot.
Well, we always put our dates up at CarolynWonderland.com, and I got to tell you, sometimes I have to look there myself. We're playing around quite a bit in Texas, and we'll head back over to Europe in November and probably do a little bit of the West Coast before that. Shoot, any place that'll have us. Y'all want to give us a holler, we'll come play.
And how about that European scene? I know you just returned from playing over there. It's quite a love for American Western music in Europe right now.
Yeah, well, for all kinds, and I have to say it's been interesting the last several years going over there. It used to be I'd show up in a venue and it'd be, oh, you're from Texas, Johnny Winter, Doug Sahm. In recent years, though, I have to say it's been a far more political discourse that takes place when you arrive and say you're from Texas, especially. Oh, so you love the George Bush, do you?
And speaking of such things, I know you were involved with the anti-war movement locally there in Texas.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's here a peace sign might get you thrown in jail, but in Europe at least it opens up some conversation.
And do you have to kind of be a diplomatic envoy for the rest of the country, those of us who are against the Iraq conflict and want to see it end, as Europeans are confronting Americans more about this topic?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I get definitely a lot more political speak than I do when I'm at home. But in the same breath, the thing I have to say is that the folks there have been through this, in recent generations, on their own soil, and so they've come to accept that while they disagree with the government, they in the same breath don't hate the citizenry, and I have to say that that's a very large step. And I just wish that my one wish for the American people is that more of us could leave the country to see how we're perceived and then come home and work on that.
And obviously there are some countries in the EU with vastly different approaches to cannabis than here, but do you find Europeans on the whole have a more relaxed attitude about it all than us here in the United States?
Well, certainly in Holland. Well, I have to say, it's a beautiful thing, and oddly enough, like songs like Annie's Scarlet Letter are requested there, but I feel, I feel it certainly is a bit more liberal in a lot of the places that we visit over there. And while it's not always the case, that's okay too. At least they're open to discuss it.
And Carolyn, this concert tomorrow night is really an Austin All-Stars show with you, Ray asleep at the wheel, and Willie.
It's a pretty big honor. I was surprised as heck to get asked, and still jumping up and down about it.
Carolyn, this has been a just wonderful conversation here today. I really appreciate you joining us here on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Austin tomorrow.
Thanks. Hey, anything I can ever do for NORML, you guys just call me up. The answer is yes.
Oh, thank you again, Carolyn. Carolyn Wonderland is an Austin-based musician. We have links to her MySpace page and her website up at normalaudiostash.com. Let's listen to one of her songs. Here's Misunderstood by Carolyn Wonderland.
Go tell my mother, go tell my pa, climb the highest mountain just to say to all of y'all, I ain't got long, I ain't got long for this world. Ooh, but that don't worry me none, boy, just a matter of being misunderstood, Lord. Ain't got no worries, I ain't got no tears. I got pain and misery that go way beyond my years. I ain't got love, I ain't got love for this world. Oh, but that don't worry me none, boys. It's just a matter of being misunderstood, Lord.
Was Misunderstood by Carolyn Wonderland. Many thanks to her and Bismo Studios for giving us permission to play that here on the podcast. That's going to be on an upcoming album of Carolyn's. We have links to her MySpace page and website at normalaudiostash.com.
76% of Americans no longer support arresting and jailing marijuana smokers, and nearly as many support the medical patients having access to medical marijuana. And over 80% of our citizens now believe the war on drugs is an ineffective failure. So the question is, when will the government's misguided war on adult marijuana smokers finally end? When? Simple. When you and your like-minded friends, family, and coworkers get involved with an organization such as the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, also known as NORML. My name is Keith Stropp, and I founded the organization in 1970. Contact us at NORML, toll-free, 888-67-NORML, or by visiting the organization's up-to-date webpage at www.norml.org.
Howdy, folks. I'm Ray Benson of Asleep at the Wheel, and I'll be on stage this Friday with my good friend Willie Nelson, Carolyn Wonderland, Megan Tubb, and many, many others at the Backyard in Austin, Texas, this Friday, August 10th at 7 o'clock p.m. for a special benefit concert. More information available at austinfreedomfest.org.
Listening to NORML's Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Make sure you visit our website at normalaudiostash.com. That's NORMLAUDIOSTASH.com for more information about every day's show. I'm your host, Chris Goldstein. Thanks for listening today. See you at 4:20 tomorrow. The podcasting technology of NORML is made possible by Red Aphid Interactive Media. More information at redaphid.com.